I'm Sue Borison from Your Teen Media, and I'm here with Ann Klotz, headmistress of Laurel School in Shaker Heights, Ohio. I'm a huge fan of Ann Klotz, and I'm so excited to have 15 minutes with her right now to talk about distance learning or online learning, which we're going to hear the difference about. Ann, what have you been up to since this whole thing started?
Well, Sue, I was just thinking that there must have been a time before I really was intimately familiar with COVID-19 and what it would mean for school leadership. But thinking back, it's hard to remember when that moment arrived. So I'm at home in my beautiful house next door to Laurel School, which is a schoolhouse, and I am running Laurel School via distance learning. And when you asked about online, I think I would tell you the distinction is that none of our schools locally, and I would say very few schools nationally, are online schools, unless everything they do is online. At Laurel, we're part of one schoolhouse. That's an online learning platform. Kids are never in real time. For us, the coronavirus has required us to pivot and to deliver our curriculum via platforms like Google Hangout or Zoom. And so we are a distance learning. We're calling our framework at Laurel School at Home, a distance learning framework. And that means that kids are still in relationship with teachers and they're still learning skills and content.
So what are you expecting of your girls? Laurel's an all-girls school.
That's right.
We're talking to parents of middle school and high school. What are your expectations of kids during this time?
So my expectations are that we've all got a steep learning curve. And what's so great about kids is that they rise to the expectations we have of them. And in this particular scenario, I think it's pretty terrific for kids to see teachers embracing creative risks. Because let's talk about who the real tech experts are in most of our schools, homes, lives. It's people a lot younger than I. And I think we're going to see certainly all of us having to adapt and change our expectations, but we're also going to see kids get to be the experts in certain situations. And that will be very good for girls and their sense of agency and purpose. And it will be very good for some teachers to be schooled in the most loving ways by their students. So I'm expecting that it's going to be a great adventure.
So you are seeing this as an adventure, which I think is a great way for parents to look at this. We're being told that our kids are going to be transferring life as they knew it in school online in front of their computers. What does that mean for us as parents? When they're in school, I have no idea what they're doing, but when they're at home in my house, if I know this is a school time and they're goofing off, what are we supposed to do as parents?
So I'm a big believer that students are the ones who have to put their own feet on the pedals or their foot on the gas. And I think one of the real challenges for all of us is going to be parents who have a lot of time on their own hands wanting to be what I call an in your book bag parent, which means that we're all going to feel tempted to say, wait, aren't you supposed to be in history class right now? Hold on, have you done your homework? What about, have you checked in? And I think for me personally, I'm going to have to take a really deep breath and allow my 9th grade son to take care of his academic obligations as he does beautifully when he is actually going to school. And I'm going to have to make a little flip in my brain to remember that he is really going to school and that it's his teachers who will let him know if he's fallen down on the job, not a nagging parental unit like his mother. So I think that's important for us to know that kids have to have a sense that we trust them. And of course, I'm going to hope that my son does not make his bedroom his home office, because I have been schooled by Laurel Center for Research on Girls, and I know that bedrooms are for sleeping. So if I were queen, people would be downstairs at the dining room table, not going to school in pajamas. And in fact, parents wouldn't be going to their work in pajamas either. Like, pajamas are for sleeping. And we've got to all adjust our mindset that we are working from home. That's why at Laurel, we're calling it school at home.
That's great. I love what you're saying. I'm thinking of myself and how like out of sight, out of mind. I never got involved in their work, but in front of me, it's so much harder to show that restraint.
So
Um,
you're going to take up gourmet cooking and you're going to be nearby, but you're not going to be over his or her shoulder because here's the thing, you know this, if you do all the heavy lifting, they don't have to. So this is a really great exercise for all of us as parents. And let me tell you how tempting it would be for me to look over the shoulder of my own sweet son. But I know better, and we're all going to have to hold each other accountable. Now, what are you going to do if your kid is really taking a pass? Then you're going to do exactly what you would ordinarily do. If your child is at Laurel or at Hawken or at Shaker or at Solon, you're going to pick up the phone and call the advisor and say, hey, my kid seems to be on an extended spring break. Got any ideas? And again, that's what schools do best. We know how to motivate kids and we know how to stay connected to them. Remember, a lot of our kids are going to be bored out of their tiny minds because they miss one another. And so school is actually going to be an opportunity to be in relationship again with their classmates, even the people who really got on their nerves. At least it's interesting to be with them instead of staring at the wall or, God forbid, staring at your mother or father.
so if you are in a large public school, who do you call at that school to say that you're concerned about your kid?
So, of course, what I know best is the independent school landscape, but I really trust my great colleagues at Shaker and Beechwood, and I would make sure that I knew an advisor or someone that they had in their communication with me about distance learning, let me know that I should be in touch with. Remember, many of our families are going to deal with illness. And when somebody is really maybe even gravely sick, the we have to all keep in mind that school may not be the most essential thing at that very moment. And I say this as a leader of an independent school where I have pledged to deliver to my families a top-notch academic education along with great attention to social and emotional well-being. But we are all going to learn things we don't yet know, because what if a lot of our teachers are sick? What if children can't go to school because they're sick? So we're going to have to be nimble and adapt and set up a framework and then be prepared to evaluate it and see if it's working. And I know I live across the street from David Glassner, the superintendent of Shaker Heights, so I know that the fabulous Shaker Heights school system is going to have set up thoughtfully what to do if your child seems to be taking a powder and not doing anything.
But so there's two things that you said that I love. One is that we don't have to step in and be the bad guy. If for some reason we are seeing our kids gaming the whole day or doing something that we recognize is not at all connected to school, we can look outside for advice before we go and nag that child. So that's number one.
Absolutely.
And number two is that this is unprecedented times, and that calls for all of us to be flexible in what we're dealing with.
That's right. And, you know, I would say that no is a word that parents can employ. No. And no might be the word you need to use if your child is gaming. And even you might take away that particular device. Now, we know that our kids are linked to all their devices at all times, but I think it's okay to set up some ground rules with your children as distance learning is getting underway, or even after a week of it, and say, you know, I noticed that you didn't seem to be really engaged when I walked through the dining room. I noticed that you seem to be logging a lot of hours on data in the family. You know, it's okay still to have your family set of expectations, and maybe now more than ever. At Laurel, we're going to evaluate after the first week with both parents and girls to see how it's going and to see where we need to flex, where we need to tighten. We've said no pajamas for school, but our girls don't have to wear their uniforms, so that should be pretty exciting.
Although I've heard of schools that are requiring kids to use uniforms, and at first I balked a little bit, but then I thought we do need to get up and feel like we are attending to something that isn't just pajamas. So
that's right.
So I like both things. Putting on clothes, you cannot be in your pajamas, although, you know, bottoms can be whatever.
Right. Well, that's what I think we're going to do at Laurel. I think we may ask our little girls to wear their Laurel shirts, and then they can wear whatever they want on the bottom. And I think actually our little girls love their uniform, and so they would be sad if they didn't have a reason to put it on. But I do think at Laurel, the uniform signals this is a work day. And I have a daughter who took her ACT once in extended time on a Saturday, and she came downstairs in her Laurel uniform, and I said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "Mom, the ACT is work. I'm going to work. I put on my work clothes." And there is that sort of sense of sensibility of, if we're just in yoga pants all the time, how serious do we need to be? Except about yoga.
Or my life.
Right. Well, I'll say one thing about parents and kids, if I may.
Sure.
We need to be gentle with ourselves. We need to understand that this uncertainty, which is just spooling out, the governor and Dr. Acton haven't given us an end date, right? And that's true nationally. I have daughters who live in New York City. I have friends across the country. So living with this uncertainty is fatiguing, emotionally fatiguing for us as adults and also for our kiddos of all ages. And make no mistake, they are always listening, whether you're parenting a fifth grader or a college child who's just arrived home on your doorstep, his or her life totally upended. And so I think as much as we can practice empathy and compassion for ourselves and our children and our teachers who are, amazing what they have done with a very short lead time to be able to do what teachers do best, which is facilitate learning for kids. But we're going to have to be patient and keep a sense of humor, because we'd all be lost without that.
Okay, that was the perfect ending. Thank you so much. And I'm going to ask you one more question. An idea that at the end of 1 week, you are going to talk to the teachers and the parents and the girls. Is that what you said?
That's the hope. Yep.
Okay.
We'll see how realistic it is.
So you have a much bigger task than what I'm going to suggest. But I think what I'm going to take away is at the end of a week, my family should convene. Yes. And we should talk about every aspect of it. How's it going? But also, how is this sitting and learning in front of the computer, and what's realistic for you? Because they're not trying.
Okay, but remember, it's not just screen time when they're in class, right? It's not kids just zoning out playing, some game. I couldn't come up with what any of my games were that I ever play. But they're actually learning, and they're in relationship. And one of our wonderful primary directors said that today, that it's not just veg out, look at a screen. It's actually in relationship. And at Laurel, at least, and I suspect at my colleague schools, public, private, and faith-based, we're all going to be looking for ways for kids to be engaged that don't have anything to do with a screen, right? Whether that's reading, which we want everybody to be doing always, or doing some hands-on learning that has nothing to do with a screen. And we also have to make accommodation for the fact that we are in unprecedented times. So things are going to be different.
Ann Klotz, headmistress of Laurel School, thank you so much for your time and great wisdom. Thanks for sharing with us.
Thank you, Susan.
Take care.